the world, John Bones Jones!
From being the youngest light heavyweight champion in UFC history at age 23 to being indefinitely suspended and stripped of his title, here's all you need to know regarding what happened to Jon Jones. Hate it or despise it, Jon Jones is the best UFC fighter of all time. In his 14-year run as UFC fighter, Jon has indeed put together quite an impressive resume. Not only is he a former two-time light heavyweight champion, holding the title from March 2011 to April 2015, and from December 2018 to August 2020, but he's also the youngest champion in UFC history, with his title victory over Mauricio Rua at the meager age of 23.
To the body, and it is all over! Jon Jones!
During most of his outstanding career, he's been considered the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and he's currently ranked number 10 in the UFC men's ranking. The American fighter has never been stopped or outscored during his career. His only loss is a controversial loss against Matt Hamill.
Disqualification of Johnny Bones Jones. Therefore, the winner is Matt Hamill.
You might be wondering, this man's got it all, but not all that glitters is gold. He might be one of the best fighters the UFC has ever seen, but away from the octagon, his life has been tainted by nothing but controversies, which has led him to earn a reputation as the bad boy of MMA. Jones was suspended from UFC and lost his title not once, but 3 times. The American professional mixed martial artist certainly didn't have an uneventful career. Between 2015 and 2017, he was involved in several controversies and lost his title multiple times as a result of disciplinary action. It was so bad that his agent said he might never fight in the octagon again. Which brings us to the question, which I'm sure is lurking in your head. What exactly did Jones do that was so terrible, so inhumane, so unbelievable that led him to being kicked out of the game? Well, Jon was involved in a hit-and-run accident. Yes, you heard that right. Considered one of the best fighters in the world, Jones was arrested on allegations of leaving the scene of an accident that left a pregnant woman with a broken arm. This scene happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 2015, when cops revealed they were looking for Bones. It was alleged that the American had gone through a red light and crashed a rental car into 2 other vehicles before fleeing the accident of the crash. The police also found a pipe with some inside Jones's car. The 35-year-old was initially called in for questioning, but later an arrest warrant was issued on felony charges. According to UFC President Dana White, Jon was very disappointed and upset. He wanted to go down as one of the greatest players, but it didn't seem like that anymore. Dana believed he had disgraced the sport and stripped him of the light heavyweight title, and rightfully so. If you think this is all there is to know regarding Jones, there's more. This was only one of the many troublesome things he's done. The UFC fighter was banned for drugs 3 times, including pills. Well, you wouldn't expect anything else from a man widely referred to as chocolate, would you? Despite being a 2-time champion, this was just another incident that put a deep stain on Jon's achievements. In 2015, the New York-born fighter tested positive for taking male enhancement pills. The pills contain benzoylecgonine, the primary metabolite of The result came just a month before he was due to fight Daniel Cormier at UFC 182. Since benzoylecgonine wasn't banned, the fight went ahead, but Jones was still fined for violating the UFC's athlete code of conduct policy and spent time in rehab, barely just a day for his sins. The father of 4 defended himself by saying he was not a addict by any means. He just made a really dumb decision and had to face the consequences. Jones didn't learn from his mistakes, though. He was suspended again in 2016 after testing positive for other drugs ahead of another fight with Cormier at UFC 200. The UFC fighter defended himself, claiming he didn't know what he had taken was on the anti-doping list. He had taken pills throughout his life. In 2017, Jones lost his title again after testing positive for the steroid Turinabol. The embattled fighter had to wait another 15 months to be able to take part in the game again. Jones spent time in rehab before returning to the UFC. The reigning UFC light heavyweight champion apologized to his friends and family for taking drugs and entered a drug treatment facility. He also apologized to the UFC, his coaches, sponsors, and fans for his actions and assured them that he was taking his treatment plan very seriously. The UFC backed the young, fiery fighter, saying that while they were disappointed in the failed test, they would support him during his recovery. They applauded him for choosing to enter a drug treatment facility. "John is a strong, courageous fighter inside the octagon," the UFC said in a statement, "and we expect him to fight this issue with the same poise and diligence. We commend him on his decision and look forward to him emerging from this program a better man as a result." The rehab did pay off because Jones did make it back to the UFC. John is set to make a dramatic return to the cage after a 3-year hiatus. The former UFC light heavyweight champion is finally stepping his foot inside the octagon after 3 years. His last fight was against Dominic Reyes at UFC 247 back in February 2020. Since then, Bones took a break from the sport, admitting he lacked motivation when going up against lesser opposition. Jones told Unlocking the Cage that he wanted to have fear again, since it's healthy, and that's why he's returning, to feel that fear again. The 35-year-old is all set to face top contender Cyril Gane in UFC 285. The division's title has been vacant since Francis Ngannou set off for greener pastures in January. Jones will be competing for the title while the Frenchman will be eyeing the same. John's showdown with Gane is set to take place at the T-Mobile Arena in Nevada on March 4th. UFC 285 will be shown live on BT Sport in the UK and will also be shown live on the Broadcasters app. I'm definitely excited for the fight. Are you? Let's jump into some details of the much-awaited match. Well, talking about Jones's heavyweight debut, his fights are always a big deal, but this one is massive. This is going to be a compelling fight for many reasons. Most of the reasons obviously surround Jones. The whole world is keen to see how the former light heavyweight champion, who vacated the belt in 2020 to move up a division, will perform in the UFC heavyweight division. His long layoff certainly doesn't favor him winning this, and also the fact that he looked unusually human in his last 2 light heavyweight fights also doesn't make it look like the odds are in his favor. Unfortunately, Jones also doesn't have any ordinary opponents for his heavyweight debut. The Frenchman is not some middling contender, but the division's former interim champion and one of the sharpest strikers. Gane is surely relieved that Jones hasn't fought in years, but I'm sure he's sweating John's skills too. John isn't only a slick striker.
Big shots by John Jones.
World in trouble here.
Gustafson's in trouble. That's
John
it.
Jones has
That's it.
And submission specialist, but he's one of the most effective wrestlers in MMA history. So who will win? The odds seem to be in Jones's favor, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And now you know what happened to John Jones.